The British government officially recognized the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, on March 3, 1924. On March 3, 1991, Latvia held a referendum in which an overwhelming majority of its citizens voted in favor of independence from the Soviet Union. On March 3, 2007, protests erupted in Moroccan-controlled Western Sahara against the continued occupation of the region. On March 3, 1996, Niger held its first multi-party presidential election after years of military rule. On March 3, 2018, Pakistan successfully tested the Ababeel ballistic missile, a medium-range missile capable of carrying multiple independently targetable re-entry vehicles, MIRVs. March 3, 1878, the Treaty of San Stefano was signed, ending the Russo-Turkish War and granting Bulgaria autonomy. March 3, 2012, Honduras was still grappling with the fallout from the 2009 coup d'état that ousted President Manuel Zelaya. By March 3, 1976, the military junta in Argentina was consolidating its power after overthrowing President Isabel Perón in a coup on March 24, 1976. The regime began implementing its brutal campaign of repression, known as the Dirty War. March in 1947, the Malagasy uprising began against French colonial rule, marking a pivotal moment in the fight for independence. On March 3, 1887, 5 members of the revolutionary group, Narodnaya Volia, People's Will, were executed in Russia. On March 3, 2015, violence related to Mexico's ongoing drug war escalated in several regions. While the Caracasso uprising occurred on February 27, 1989, its aftermath continued into early March. By March 3, 1989, the Venezuelan government had imposed martial law to quell the violent protests triggered by austerity measures imposed by President Carlos Andrés Pérez. On March 3, 2013, the Seleka rebel coalition captured several key towns in the Central African Republic, CAR, advancing toward the capital, Bangui. On March 3, 2002, large-scale protests erupted across Pakistan against U.S. military actions in Afghanistan. March of 1945, Soviet forces liberated Gdansk, marking a turning point in Poland's liberation during World War II. On March 3, 1940, the Winter War between the Soviet Union and Finland came to an end with the signing of the Moscow Peace Treaty. In early 2019, mass protests against President Omar al-Bashir's regime intensified across Sudan. By March 3, 2019, demonstrators had been rallying for months, demanding an end to his 30-year rule. On March 3, 2021, the Ethiopian government announced a unilateral ceasefire in the Tigray region. On March 3, 1979, Chinese forces were still engaged in the Sino-Vietnamese War, which had begun on February 17, 1979. China launched this punitive invasion in response to Vietnam's occupation of Cambodia and its alignment with the Soviet Union. Bachendri Pal, the first Indian woman to climb Mount Everest, was born on March 3, 1955. March in 1953, the People's Republic of China launched its first 5-year plan, focusing on industrialization and economic growth. On March 3, 1845, Florida was admitted to the Union as the 27th state of the United States. This marked a significant expansion of U.S. territory and solidified Florida's role in the nation's economy and politics. On March 3, 2019, thousands of Russians participated in anti-corruption protests across the country, including in Moscow. March 3, 2013, North Korea declared its intention to withdraw from the Korean Armistice Agreement, which had ended the Korean War in 1953. March 3, 1284, Charles II of Naples, also known as Charles the Lame, was crowned King of Naples and Sicily. On March 3, 1938, Austrian Chancellor Kurt Schuschnigg announced plans for a referendum to determine whether Austria should remain independent or align with Nazi Germany. March 3, 1875, President Ulysses S. Grant signed the Civil Rights Act of 1875 into law. This act aimed to protect African Americans from racial discrimination in public accommodations, such as theaters, hotels, and transportation. On March 3, 1959, the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader of Tibet, began his escape from Lhasa to India following an uprising against Chinese occupation. On March 3, 1918, Soviet Russia and Germany signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, officially ending Russia's involvement in World War I. On March 3, 1931, President Herbert Hoover signed a congressional resolution officially designating the Star-Spangled Banner as the national anthem of the United States.